Welcome back to another episode of the Strongman Winner Circle podcast. I'm your host, Nicholas Canby. This is episode 53, and this is World's Strongest Man predictions and thoughts for 2023. Fun fact, I've actually competed with or alongside with 10 out of the 30 athletes at the show. So I thought that was a pretty cool stat heading into this. But before I get into everything, I want to go on the kind of the first level when talking about the predictions, not looking at the weights and the events, but looking at the contest done, prestige and training before I go into event per event predictions and guesstimates for the final winner. Last year I did a similar metrics that I did, and I predicted actually the podium, but in the wrong order. I had Oleksiy in third, Martins in first, and Tom in second. But of course, Tom and Martins were switched. And I had probably 8 out of the 10 finalists, so I hope to better myself this year around. But I want to talk about some notable athletes first to kind of discuss my thoughts. And these are guys that I'm high on leading into the show. So this is Brian Shaw's last show. He hasn't competed since the Shaw Classic 2022. And he usually competes about 2 times a year. Took 4th at World's Strongest Man last year. Took 2nd in his show in 2022 as well. This being his last World's Strongest Man ever, I imagine he's going to be given everything he's got. So he's going to be well rested compared to the other athletes that have been competing probably 3 or 4 times when Brian's been resting since the Shaw Classic. So would that rest time be enough? However, we did get additional information about that potential staph infection that he had early in the year, but let's see if that will potentially slow him down. But what are his chances to win World's Strongest Man this year? The odds are against him as he's 41 years old. Savickas, Big Z, the oldest athlete to ever win the title, was at age 38 and 8 months when he won the 4th title. Can Shaw make history by winning his 5th title and be the oldest man ever to do it? I also have pretty high hopes for Evan Singleton. He had a great year in 2021, struggled in 2022, but we'll see what 2023 will look like. At times, even for myself and Strongman, I've seen Strongman kind of peak and valley. So I think 2020 was a peak. Maybe 2022 was kind of a valley. The year it didn't quite go the way he wanted, but sometimes Strongman cycles, peak and valleys, can take around 2 years. So I believe he's finishing up that 2-year cycle, so we're going to see a brand new Evan Singleton that we've never seen before. Usually winning can bring complacency, and sometimes injuries can be a gift to really recomposition oneself going forward. Since coming off his bicep, I like where I see Evan come from his training under the guidance of Adam Dirks. Seems like he's in the right headspace and looks very healthy heading into World's Strongest Man. Compared to other athletes on the lineup, and just like Brian Shaw that we just discussed, he's also not going to have much wear and tear compared to the other competitors, being off competing for the last 6 months. In my podcast with him, I mentioned how 4 is a very significant number in the world of Strongman, and this is going to be his fourth appearance at World's Strongest Man. But in general, there are currently 4 World's Strongest Man winners in John Paul, MVM, Magnus Magnuson, Shaw, and Big Z. Out of the recent World's Strongest Man winners since 2009, 3 of them have won on their 4th appearance at Worlds, which has been Martins Licis, Tom Stoltman, and Brian Shaw. So can Evan be the 4th individual to win on his 4th appearance? That's the question. Other notable champions in terms of how many appearances it took for them to win their World's Strongest Man title. Big Z had the IFSA split back when, but he won on his 5th appearance. Eddie Hall won on his 6th appearance to World's Strongest Man. Thor won on his 9th, and then Oleksiy, who's also competing this weekend, won on his 2nd trip to World's Strongest Man. The next guy I want to talk about is, of course, the returning 2-time champion Tom Stoltman, who's going for his 3rd World's Strongest Man title in a row, something that has only been done by Magnus Magnuson and Bill Kazmaier. Not having the Arnold Classic appearance he wanted this past March, maybe the Arnold was enough to shake off the rust and he's going to be more peaked coming into this year's show. Everyone has high hopes for Mitch Hooper this year, but how hard has it been to win World's Strongest Man after winning the Arnold Classic in the same year? So let's talk about it. So Big Z did it once, and that was back in 2014. Brian Shaw has done it twice, in 2011 and 2015, and Thor Bjornsson did it in 2018. So can Mitch be the fourth? The four is being that significant number, a very well-balanced number, but an important number for today's episode. So can Mitch be the fourth person to ever win both titles in the same year? If he could, he would go down in history with some of the best of all time, but the odds are against him. And lastly, the last individual I want to talk about is Trey Mitchell, just for the fact that I have a good feeling about him. He's probably on every major podium. The last several contests he's done. 2-time Shot Classic winner. There's no grip events in the finals this year. So I really have high hopes with Trey. So let's see how the groups actually will play out in terms of determining a potential World's Strongest Man. All right, so Group 1, you have Konstantin Jarnasha, Pavlo Koriaka, Paul Dwyer, Tom Stoltman, Bobby Thompson, Eddie Williams. So save you guys the scribble notes and from the points for event per event. But I have Tom Stoltman winning the group by a hair over Pavlo, and Pavlo wins the stone off over Jarnasha. So that's how I have Group 1 going. Group 2, you have Iron BB, Gavin Bilton, Fadi Masari, I don't think I pronounced his last name right, Thomas Evans, Oleksiy Novikov, Luke Stoltman. So for Group 2, I have Oleksiy winning the group. I have Luke winning the stone off versus Gav Bilton. That was an interesting one because I think potentially it could go both ways between Luke and Gav Bilton. So, of course, Luke didn't have quite the Arnold performance that he wanted. Can he be in the shape that he was last year when he went on a kind of a tirade when he came to taking third at the Arnold, taking second at Europe's, and then taking seventh in the finals, World's Strongest Man finals? Or, for instance, or is he kind of that slump he's got to continue going into Worlds? And then Gav Bilton looks like he keeps getting better and better every contest, so potentially Gav might pull up. But right now I'm going to have Luke winning the stone off over Gav Bilton. So for Group 3, you have Graham Hicks, Mitchell Hooper, Mateusz Kieliszkowski, Matthew Ragg, Spencer Remick, Ivars, Smog Snellis. I hope I said that right. So out of that group, I have Mitch winning the group, but I have Ivars winning the stone off over Mateusz Kieliszkowski. I think Ivars is just a great stone loader. He always does great, and he always kind of shows up here. Mateusz, if he's back into 2018, 2019 form, he's making the finals, but I'm not sure if he's quite there yet, but I think he is going to be a pretty stacked version. But it's just tough in this situation where I think Mateusz beats him in the group, but Ivar just wins the stone, and whoever wins the stones moves on. But this is my first big upset in terms of the groups. In Group 4, you have Adam Bishop, Kevin Ferris, Ron O'Hyla, Gabriel Rune, Jocko Schoonwinkel, Brian Shaw. And out of that Group 4, I have Bish winning the group by a hair, which is kind of an upset because you would think Shaw might win the group. But I have Shaw winning the stone off over Ferris. And the last group, Group 5, you have Jean-Steven Corbouf, Mr. Coco, Mark Felix, Ithor Melstead, Trey Mitchell, Evan Singleton, Paul Smith. So Group 5, I thought it was a tough one to kind of determine a winner. I kept going back between Evan and Trey, a point here and a point there, but I have Evan by a hair, and Trey wins the stone off over Ithor. If Trey won the group, I still have Evan over Ithor in terms of the stone off. So the finalists: Tom, Pavlo, Oleksiy, Luke, Mitch, Ivars, Bish, Shaw, Trey, and Evan. So I did the point-by-point calculations. I tried to be, again, I was even checking some of the Strongman archives in terms of how different guys have placed. Of course, I know that's a huge resource through with many strongman and strongman competitors use it. I think a couple notes. I didn't have Alexi winning the truck pull, but he still did pretty well. Last year he won the truck pull, but I don't think he's sneaking up on anybody. I think that's something that Tom's going to win. When it comes to the dumbbell, so we have a max dumbbell, so no Mateus in the lineup because I have Ivar's knocking him off. But I predict that I think both Evan and Alexi both hit a 310 to 315 dumbbell. And that will be enough for first place points. And then maybe they'll go for a 330 and potentially miss it. But I think it would be hard to see a new record to kind of broken. That 330 is pretty tough it was a pretty tough lift. And I think after 2 days of competing, I know it was one rest day before the finals. And especially I think it's on the second day. I think that's going to be hard to set a new record, but I know Evan hit 310 last year. Alexi has won 10 straight dumbbell events, so I see them potentially tying for first. I think that's the way I scored it. So looking back at it before I unveil the 10 in terms of placing in order, again, looking back at it, I think I scored Trey too low on the deadlifts. Because he did moderately well, but I had him scoring pretty similar to what he did last year. I had Ivar's in terms of his point total pretty low in the mix, pretty low in terms of the actual points, but I think he's going to be much more in the mix than I originally anticipated. Same thing with Bish. I didn't have Bish all the way up there on some events. Of course, he's going to do well in the deadlift, but for the most part, I think he's probably going to score more points. And then in terms of Evan's course kind of volatile. Again, we don't know which Evan's going to come out. Is the bad luck streak can continue, or he's going to overcome that and be that balanced number 4, be that fourth man to win on his fourth appearance. But I scored Evan based on he's putting everything together and looks like the Evan of 2001, the Evan of old. So, the top 10, I have Bish in 10th, Luke Stolman in 9th, Ivar's in 8th, Pavlo in 7th, Trey in 6th, Shaw in 5th, Mitch in 4th, and then my top 3, I have Tom Stoltman in 3rd, and then only by a few points, I have Alexi and Evan actually tying in points after my point calculation. And I did some split points at times, like on the deadlift and on the dumbbell. So I had them tied, but only a few points off of Tom. I have Evan winning if the stone is the tiebreaker between the two, but if it's a count back, I have Alexi winning. But I think for the most part, I think the stone is the determinant of who wins. Or is going to be the tiebreaker, but I'm not in the rules meeting, so I don't really know. So I guess we'll find out if that happens. But overall, when it comes to that podium, I'm pretty high on Tom, Evan, and Alexi. So that's my predictions for this year. I'm putting it out there. Let me know in the comments if you have anything different. Let me know who I left out or what order you guys would put it in. And hopefully I don't have to make another prediction show next year because maybe I'll be in the contest. But that's all for today. And I hope you liked the show. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, notification bell. And until next time, everybody, stay strong.